Welcome to our NFT panel. I'm here with Kaplanis from Project Z, NFT Carter from NFTGG.io, and Pieter from NFTZ.studio. All right, well, welcome guys to our panel. The first question on the tip of everybody's tongue when they hear NFTs. Are NFTs just a fad? What do you guys think?
I think certain NFTs definitely could be a fad, but I think the technology that they're running on and the things that they're gonna be used for, it's gonna have like lasting impact on the world.
Yeah,
for sure.
Totally. So that's one perspective. So you're kind of talking about utility. What's the technology behind it? How's it used? What are the benefits? What is it doing?
Right. So one good example I like to use is like ticketing. So if you're buying a ticket to go to a sports game or something like that, it's a really good use case for an NFT. It's easy to transfer between your phones if you're on a nice cheap blockchain. It's verifiably only one of them. When you scan it and use it to get into the game, then you use it, they can't use it again. So it's perfect in all those. It checks off a lot of boxes for using it as a ticket.
Yeah. So the NFT is, coupled to your address so that unless somebody has your private keys, nobody else can, have that ticket.
Yeah, there's no more like buying nachos and losing your ticket.
Okay. Yeah. And what anyone else have thought about the whole fad of NFTs? Like, I guess, are they just a fad, and where does that come from?
It's kind of like asking if the internet is a fad.
Yeah.
It's just going to become ubiquitous with what people do. It's what you do with the technology that becomes whether or not it's useful to somebody or not. And so obviously NFT Maxi, I believe in the technology and blockchain. But as far as people using it, it's not going to go away. Adoption, the speed of adoption is going to be what drives whether or not everyone uses it in our lifetime for a million things, or 50% of the world uses it for 10% of the things they do. But the technology itself is here, it's useful, it's valuable, so NFTs are not going anywhere.
Yeah, so like almost if a share of the population finds it useful, then it really can't die out because it's an open source technology that anybody can use.
Right.
Yeah, I think like I look at it as, sure, the media portrays a lot of NFTs as fads. That's why the whole world right now is like, yo, this is all fad, it's BS, But I think, again, the technology, the way the internet, the way technology moves so quickly, the internet once was talked like, this will never be used, this is stupid, this is dumb. And we're at that right now, whereas the NFT, use cases as they adopt, I think people won't even realize that they even have them. Right. It's just going to become everything. Just like the internet is everything. Right. NFTs will be everything without people even realizing.
Right.
Yeah, you don't see any apps advertising, we use internet technology.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so people will be using it without realizing it. So kind of like the point there is that if it becomes easy to use, so easy in fact that people don't know they're using it, that's kind of the secret to mass adoption. Almost.
Yeah, no one knows how their phone works, no one knows how to program an app, no one knows how the car works.
Yeah.
You just use it. Starbucks is rolling out their loyalty program using blockchain technology, Web3. So mass adoption will happen there, and people will just use their phone, they'll click the buttons, they'll have the loyalty reward. It will be an NFT and they won't care whether or not they know that or how it works. They'll just be like, did I get my free coffee after ordering 6? And so it will become commonplace, and the people who build that internally will know how it works and how the pipes connect and all that kind of fun stuff. But people will just start using it and they won't even know.
Yeah, that's super interesting, and it makes sense because everything becomes that saying sort of a black box. We don't need to know how it works to use it, and there's certain people who will always look at it as a black box, not understandable. So makes sense. So our next submitted question here is, what features does one look for when they're buying an NFT on a blockchain? What does that look like? What do you look for?
I personally look for things that I like. If you buy something that you don't like, it's really hard to look at it every day and be like, why is this going up, or why is this going down, or why did I buy this stupid thing? And I'm not talking just visually, it's more like the project itself. Do I like what they are trying to do in the world? Everyone says look at the team, which is obviously big. I don't buy into projects that the founders aren't doxed, that you don't know who the founders are. or I try not to. And so if you align with the ethos of what the founder's mission is, and you like the project and what it does, like I didn't buy into Link style because I'm not a huge golfer, but I understand all the people who are like, this is the best thing, then I want to invest. So the things that you buy into, you got to have fun looking at it every day and being like, oh, what are they doing today? What is that? What happened here? So align it with your interests and find good founders, and then hope that it goes up in value. Unless you're a trader, there's a whole different criteria of what you do, but that's not what I do.
Sure, yeah, and I think it makes sense because if you buy something you like and you believe in, it's like, hey, I bought this, and if it doesn't go anywhere, it goes down in value, it crashes. It's like, hey, I stand by, you know, what I believe and why I bought this. I still believe in this ethos, so that's why I'm, you know, that I've purchased it.
The one safeguard is buy a few of them because you become emotionally attached if you like it. So if you have one of something and it goes up exponentially in value, and you're like, oh, but I really love this cute little picture of a cat, which we all know is not the value. It's the smart contract that's written behind it. But it'd be really hard to sell when you're emotionally attached to something. So buy multiples if you are going in that direction.
Yeah, and if you can afford it, right?
Buy them cheap.
Buy them cheap, buy them new, I guess. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Anybody else have a thought about that?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent. I'm a big believer in the like use case NFTs. So NFTs that have some sort of value, that provide like a value to a game or to like a community or something like that. So all the NFTs that I hold have some tokenomics behind it. So some of them generate a token every day. Other ones, if you use them, you unlock a character in a game that you can play, and you can earn money with that character playing the game. Or they unlocked an avatar in a 3D world that I can run around in this avatar, and there's some way of, you know, now I can flex, I can dance in that like different like Steve Aoki thing or whatever. So that's huge for me. I also love going into like the community, like really diving into it, start asking questions. I like to send a question into like a random channel, like not the help channel. I send a random message somewhere and be like, how do I do this super simple thing? And if a bunch of people jump on and help me, odds are if somebody else who doesn't know what they're doing tries to buy this or tries to get into the project, someone's gonna help them. So that's always like a big plus for me.
Yeah.
And then I say like, oh yeah, I totally know this. I was just seeing if you guys were cool. And then you just bro down with some people. And if the vibe is cool, then buy like 3, like Peter said.
Yeah. So
because
like,
I buy 3, when it doubles, sell 1, hold on to the other 2 until I always, if I like something, I'll hold it forever.
Yeah.
But I have 2 other ones that I can sell when I want to make some cash.
So like if you can check out the community and you like the spirit and it fits with you, if they're helpful, you dive in there. And if it has a little bit of utility, and it sounds like if it can keep you busy doing stuff, then it's probably something you can engage with, and that's how you enjoy spending your time. So what can you do?
Yeah. Or if I could lease it out to somebody else who wants to play the game or use the character to generate their own income.
Yeah, so NFTs is a character, not just a, you know, we're kind of moving away from that skeptic's view of like, oh, it's just this picture on the blockchain. Right. Okay, well, it can be something more. So what about for you, Kyle?
So I learned early on that FOMO is not the way. Like, so I lost a lot of money because I just went with where everybody else was. And then I realized, you know what, NFTs are like anything else in the world. Why would I be buying based off of other people's, like, you know, what they think is valuable? So I looked at it like, okay, if I'm consuming products or things in average life, why shouldn't I treat NFTs the same way? So what I do is, you know, is it a good use case to me? Do I find the project valuable to me, not to what other people think? And so my biggest thing is utility is what I look for. Like, what can it add value to what I'm doing? If I'm in my business, can it increase? So I've bought into a couple of metaverse projects that I'm now using as like a digital office where I can bring people in. And to me, that's a huge use case for me. You know, brings value to my life.
Yeah. So I'm hearing like a lot of utility. It's kind of like the unanimous one thing that we all mentioned. I mean, of course, I can take a moment to talk about, you know, Elk Finance's NFTs. We've got a Moose NFT that basically allows you to create a proxy token, which, you know, we'll explain later in other episodes. But to basically either loan it out or you know, sell it to developers to actually make something. So and so like I totally get that utility thing, and I'm kind of on that side. But I think the more I learn about it, the more I am in tune with like, oh, do I like it? You know, is it cool? Like, does it, you know, allow me to interact? So appreciate that.
Alexis Ohanian said the internet is culture, and culture comes from the internet, and Web3 is the same. So it's driving culture, and people have to like the things that are on the internet, and that's just how human beings react to things.
Yeah, it's all emotion first.
Yeah.
What about project creators in Web3? That's blockchain, NFTs, all sorts of things. What do they have to keep in mind when they market their project to get it out there?
Over-promise, no. Don't over-promise, because the early stages of NFT was a lot of over-promise and under-deliver. And so a lot of projects have gone to very small roadmap, so that they don't get in that trap where they've been said, we're going to do this, we're going to change the world, we're going to do tokenomics, we're going to build a game, we're going to do all these things, because they're trying to build hype for the project. So it's walking a very fine line of how do you get attention, but you're not allowed, or you want to be careful not to say exciting things, because you don't want people to be like, you told us we were going to get this, and then you didn't deliver. So that's not really helpful on the marketing side, but it's just a point of saying, you got to be careful what you say you're going to do. And also, a lot of them don't realize that certain words, like saying you become a shareholder, you get profit sharing, puts you in the land of security, and you're essentially going to have issues with lawyers and tax and things of that nature. So generally just don't overpromise, but generate interest, genuine interest, organic interest, by having something interesting and cool to say and building a good product.
So it's like, what can you realistically do? It's better to underpromise and then maybe beat those goals in your roadmap. And then just being cautious of like regulations. Even though the regulations may not affect you in your country where you are, well, there's some people that might be interested in a market where there are those rules. So I think it's something you got to pay attention to, which is a good point. Yeah. So in terms of marketing, anybody else kind of have a thought about that?
Yeah. I would ask people like, who are you marketing to? Because a lot of times I think the root of your marketing your project is knowing your audience and who do you want to even be a part of your project, and understanding how to diversify your content. Like, and I say content because that's so important to marketing. If you're not making content, like, just forget it. Just your project's gonna die. But understanding how to diversify your content appropriately. A lot of people, I think, just use like Discord and Twitter, and then they don't go outside of that. But it depends. Like, if your market is already on those things and that's all you need, then that's it. But if you're looking to expand your horizons and maybe get more mainstream audience involved, then you have to understand other platforms to market on.
Right, like creating a crypto show on a business platform.
Yeah. And if you don't understand marketing, like me, you're more technical or you're an idea person, find someone who understands it. You can't fake your way through it. You can't pretend. You can't be like, oh, I'll just put out posts and people will watch them and then they'll like me and come. Yeah. It's not if you build it, they will come. Yeah. It's if you build it, find someone who understands marketing to tell people what the heck's going on.
So you got to get involved with people who know marketing, who have the experience, because they're the ones, they're educated in it. They're the experts.
Yeah, I'd say it's also really important to stay true to like your brand and your community. So you don't want to be putting out an ad that's kind of against what all your, the people who are already there supporting you. Make sure you're like representing them really well. Because then what happens is other people come in and you just get more people that are they can vibe in the same way and they're all friends, and you can just keep growing that. Because the nice thing about these NFT communities is that you get into one and you get in and you like the way that it is, and you just have all these friends all of a sudden, and then you get all these new followers on Twitter, and you're all talking, you're working together to do these new things. And if you get like-minded people into this space, then it grows like organically almost, because they bring their friends like, oh, Peter, you like this because they got a cool vibe like you. And like, so if you stay true to your brand for all your messaging that you put out there, I think that'll really help to build like true organic growth.
Yeah, so like really like bringing your community together and staying on those values that you proposed in the first place that attracted the people. Exactly. Without like selling out or like doing something off brand that's going to push some of those people away, and keeping in mind those who are there initially who are helping you out and being part of it and why they're there.
Exactly. Attracting the right people.
Yeah, totally.
It's like networking. If you throw a good party, people invite their friends.
Yeah.
But if you're like $50 at the door and nobody knows what they're getting, there's only 2 people inside, you're not doing a good job. So networking in real life, it translates to that. You have to be genuine and honest.
Sure.
Have things that are interesting for people.
Yeah.
Parties will do better.
Yeah. I think if maybe if you approach the market in a way that's like, I want to teach, I want to educate, I want to benefit, hopefully, that can be, if somebody in marketing is involved to pitch that, we can get some people who are educated about something to interact with it better, and also feel grateful that they're learning something and it's valuable to them. So
Yeah.
Another thing I can suggest as well is that there's a lot of projects out there that don't, like, yes, they're community driven, but they don't really ask their community for things, because like there might be a whole slew of people in your project that are some of the biggest marketers in the world, or whoever knows, that have a lot of resources. So just like asking your community that you've already created and saying, hey, does anybody know these resources? Don't be afraid to ask, because the community wants to market for you as well. So there could be some cool things.
More people to come in.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea.
Enjoy it together.
It's hard when idea people or founders have an idea and they come up with something, and then it's like, but I don't want your ideas, but I'd like you to help and market.
Right.
So there's a fine balance of like, there's so many smart people in my community, but I don't want to listen to them because it's my idea and it's my thing. And Web3 is very much, it's decentralized.
Yeah.
Your community is who should be deciding.
Yeah.
So again, it's a fine line to walk of like, well, I don't want you posting a TikTok dance about my product because I don't feel like that aligns, but your community says it does. So
Yeah.
you gotta you gotta learn how to let go, which is
You
tough
do.
for entrepreneurs, founders, which are the people traditionally who are starting these projects in the space. So
Yeah.
it's fascinating. Yeah.
So there's lots of blockchains out there. There's, Ethereum, we've got Gnosis, we've got Avalanche, we've got like a ton of different chains, Solana. Which one is best for making an NFT on, or buying an NFT on?
Well, it depends what you're doing. If you're trying to make, a diamond hand community of tight-knit people that have money and they're buying into like an alpha group.
What's Diamond Hand?
Diamond hands, like they just hold it and they never sell it.
Gotcha.
So if you're trying to find a bunch of people to buy into something, create a small, like exclusive community, I always say to do it on ETH. If you're gonna do it right. Spend the money up front. Costs more to transact on ETH. So me buying an NFT or selling an NFT costs more. That's why it's good for someone who's trying to build this like tight-knit alpha community that don't want to, sell a bunch. You're not doing a lot of transactions between each other or selling, buying a bunch. Do it on ETH, because then it's the biggest blockchain and it's less likely for people to just sell it.
Okay, so like Ethereum itself, it costs more to develop on, so projects are more likely to be serious.
That's the way I've taken
so
it
they can
and looked at it.
And they're going to hold your stuff, whatever you create, for a bit longer.
Right.
Because there's it costs more to do transactions, so they have to really think before they do anything.
They've got more skin in the game. When you're using ETH, you have more skin in the game.
Sure.
Across the entire board. The people who are buying it, the people who are making it, everybody.
Cool.
If you think about blockchains as technology platforms, so if you're writing code for software, you're going to either build an Android app, an iOS app, or HTML page, or you're going to use Java or C++. They all have pros and cons depending on what you want to use them for. So native apps on your phone can interact more closely with GPS and camera, for example. So if you're building a Pokemon game where you're running after things and catching them with a camera, you build on that technology platform so that you were using that stack. Ethereum, Solana, all these different blockchains have different pros and cons. The transaction fee being one of them. So if you're building a game where 100 times a day you need NFTs to transfer back and forth because you're leveling up your armor and your helmet and your whichever, you can't be spending $4 per transaction on Ethereum. You need something that's pennies per transaction. Security also plays a big factor, which is why people lean towards heavily established ones like Ethereum. And so it really is, it's a technical need combined with execution of whatever you're doing on that platform, whatever the economics or the functionality of what you're doing. So it's really just choose based on what you're doing. And some work the same as others and are interoperable, and you're really just picking which one you prefer to program on. And then some have stigmas, and some have, Ethereum has more like the wealthier people are on this and celebrity, and why would you drop on a different chain? And so you have to weigh in all those factors and then just decide.
Yeah, so which blockchain aligns best with your project? What are you going to do? And that's going to make your decision for you.
Yeah, and from my perspective is I look at it as like, let's say I'm a mainstream person that is new to NFTs. You know, you have to like weigh the pros and cons as the other blockchains. But I think like, luckily there are blockchains like Solana who are a really easy entry point for people that don't have to spend like, you know, they don't get to that gas fee portion on ETH and be like, never mind. And then they're haters because there's huge fees and right. So like, but like a Solana blockchain is a really good like one to try out things, buy a couple things, test it out, see how it is. And then for, you know, creating NFTs too, on that aspect of it, it just depends on who again, who are you marketing to? Who's this project for? Can they afford, you know, there's a lot of things on that. I've never created one, so I can't fully speak to that, I feel like.
Sure. And some of the contracts are very similar, almost identical across. So if you have, we did an NFT where, you know, this is the collectible that you want to hold, and then this is a ticket to a conference. That's how we did our conference ticket. Right. Yeah. And so the ticket, because we needed to send it to everyone, we needed to airdrop it to everyone, and we also needed them to burn it to consume their ticket. We did that on Matic, Polygon, sorry. And so then you can interoperate between different blockchains depending on the use case. You're not stuck with one necessarily, but
right. And you can do multiple functions on multiple blockchains, and that's, I guess, something that Elk wants to do is you know, create this interoperability, make all chains work together, right. And we can explore that, because what it sounds like here is the future is multi-blockchain, multi-chain, yeah. Right? And it depends on what you need and what you want to do and how that aligns.
Yeah. And the most innovative projects right now are combining Web 2 components, because you can do so much with it on top of that. You don't have to go full Web 3, and you can only do these things where you're only doing things on a blockchain. Right. You can combine them and make really unique experiences that way.
So it's kind of the Wild West out there in terms of NFTs, decentralized finance. So what do you guys watch out for in terms of, you know, buying an NFT, in terms of being safe and not getting scammed?
Peter mentioned earlier the doxed founders. So dox means like, you know who they are. If, you know, they're putting their reputation on the line to saying like, hey, I'm doing this and this is me, this is my history of, you know, the last 20 years I've been in tech or whatever it is. If they have something, if they're really putting like themselves out there, odds are they're not going to intentionally scam you.
Right.
I also like to read the audits.
Sure.
Every major, like anything that you're going to buy should be audited before by certified third parties. So there's a bunch of companies out there that are doing it, and you can actually go through and you can see what they highlight if there's any problems. You can see what they changed. So if there was a problem and then they fixed it, you can see here's how they fixed it. And so that's two good ways to know that A, the founders aren't going to disappear on you, and B, that you're not going to get exposed to some flaw in their programming, in their contracts.
And all of these audits are publicly available, and the, you know, project has to pay for them to get them out there, and anyone can go and read that, and just, it's kind of summarized pretty well.
Yeah.
As well as, you know, of course, like you mentioned, being you know, doxed.
Exactly. It adds a lot of credibility.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, for me personally, I don't buy any projects that aren't doxed. I learned that early on. Obviously, I'm sure we've all in this room have been rugged many times. And another thing I wanted to bring up, because I think this is really important on the topic of scams, is that just because maybe a project fails doesn't mean it was a scam. There's many businesses right now that are small businesses trying to launch, and they're not going to make it. But we don't look at them as scam businesses, right? Whereas, so I want to make sure that there's a fine line between what a scam is and something that just failed. So always look at, you know, when I go into a project, I also look at the auditing features, but I look at the community and seeing what their roadmap is, and is it achievable? And do I want to, like, I might be willing to say, yes, I want to be a part of this, but it might fail. And I know that. But to me, that's not a scam. It was just a failed business.
Yeah, it's part of the risk.
Yeah, there's no real true way to know if something is going to be successful or not. It's kind of like investing in startups. If you think about it as you're an angel investor in these things, and so you're picking a team, a concept, and you're kind of saying, here's my gambling money. You have to look at it that way. And some external force can come and hailstorm this thing that you just invested in, this whatever it may be in real life. And so external forces, unfortunately, they're primarily people on the internet who are, hacking into things and making it bad for everyone. But those kind of things you just can't control. And so there's a lot of influencers on Twitter that are really well reputable. And so if they know who's involved in it and they also check the contracts and do all that kind of stuff, you're hedging your bets. And then there's a whole side of wallet security that you really need to be, you need to spend about 40 hours alone on that, just to even feel 40% safe. And even then, it's the Wild West, like you said. It's a crazy time. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'd like to thank our panelists, Kyle, NFT Carter, and Peter, for joining us today on Bridging the Gap, sponsored by Elk Finance. Thanks, guys.